See, we even have an intro now, Liam.
That's
How
big
about
time.
that? It's not just a 30-second countdown and then boom, you're in. We have Liam Anderson, linebacker in the Indianapolis Colts, on with us. He was, and I'm going to let Derek talk a little bit about it because obviously he coached him as well in high school. But this was our first guest on our prospect podcast. So, and Derek just told us before, this is now the 139th episode. So we're we're, we're back with our
Crazy.
very first guest,
Hmm.
who now is really a couple years now in the NFL. We were with him before he had officially made it, but now obviously he's a couple years in. But it's really, really, really cool to have Liam Anderson back with us. It's great to have you on the podcast again, um, and talk about obviously the progression of your career. Just a quick background: he went to Mount Olive High School. He was, you guys were what, one snap away from basically being the champs, which I don't want to remind you again. Accidentally remind you guys of that. But was a star quarterback and safety there. Phenomenal athlete. Went to Holy Cross, played linebacker there at Holy Cross. Was an unbelievable football player at Holy Cross. Obviously, was a darn good football player because he was good enough to be able to get picked up for the NFL. He's with the Indianapolis Colts, like I said earlier, and he's really a great example of someone. Now, in high school, he was, I knew about him. He was a bona fide
Three-sport
superstar.
guy.
Yeah, superstar player in high school. But as we talked about way back when on his first, the first podcast, he transitioned to linebacker in college, became a star at Holy Cross, and has made it in the NFL. And all those roads have not been probably as easy as it was for him to be a star in high school, but he has really, embraced each step along the way and has continued to up his game, which is really, really exceptional to be able to do that. That takes not just a special athlete, but a special person to be able to continue to up his game at each level that he's moved up to. So we're really glad to have Liam Anderson on.
I appreciate that intro. I feel like I gotta get humbled now.
We'll let Derek do that for
We
you.
got to remind you that you were
We have
something.
Derek here.
Listen, you've been, we got to remind you. We got to remind you that you were, you're still something, buddy. Come on, dude. Like you, listen, like it was always excellent to kind of, it's always good to catch up with you and whatnot. And, that road that you've taken and that you've been on, this journey is just, I'm sure, something that you could have never really predicted going forward, kind of from where you are. Kind of talk a little bit about that going into the building, being an undrafted free agent, those kind of things, signing to the practice squad, because a lot of people have no idea how that works,
Yeah.
So kind of give a little bit of background on that, bud.
Sure. I think, being an undrafted guy, it's kind of a lot like being a walk-on in college. You show up, and obviously there are other guys, sometimes in the same position group as you, who are just by nature going to be given more opportunities than you, because whether they are drafted or, GM really likes some kid more than you, just off the bat. Like, there were times in the summer when like you see some guy who's drafted and they can mess up at one drill 3 or 4 times and get more opportunities to, keep trying. Whereas you as an undrafted guy, you probably only get like 1 or 2 opportunities. And, if you're not really taking advantage of the opportunity, then it's kind of like, well, he can try again whenever he gets the next opportunity, but we're not going to change anything to give him one. So, I understood that very quickly as soon as I got in the building. And from that point on, this was before training camp. And I, went through OTAs, learned as much as I could, still wasn't really mentally up to par with where I needed to be. And I went home in between the OTAs and training camp, and I really like studied the playbook. I was watching film every single day. Like I was working really hard, and I came into training camp and I felt really good about everything. And I got through the first week of training camp. I felt like I was playing well. I was learning, and I ended up breaking my hand. You kind of still see the scar here. I was trying to punch the ball out, and I broke my pointer finger and my middle finger, and it required surgery. So I was out for about a week and a half. Clubbed it up. Was fortunate enough to play in the last two preseason games with a club in my hand. And after that point, I was in the mentality of just, a fighter. Like I was like, well, if this is it, I'm gonna go down swinging. So I was I was playing as hard as I could. My conditioning probably wasn't where it needed to be because I missed that time. I was just coming off of surgery, but it was like I had to go. So um, I was fortunate enough to have a pretty good last preseason game in Philly, and I think that game, and I had another good practice against the Bears and during my first camp, and that's what kept me around and kept me in the building that first year. And eventually recovered from my hand breaking and surgery midway through the season, and I was just growing. And you know, after you're in the league for a year, you start to figure out what's good, what's not, and I was just trying to learn as much as I can, and then just from that point on, just continue to improve. And here I am today, year after year two, just still improving.
That's the whole key, and I think that's the hardest part for free agent players to grasp when they come in, and you have to do it in a very short time frame.
Yeah,
I
Quick.
remember, I remember as an agent, I would, the guys that made it, like I would, I was able to see that they understood how limited their opportunities were going to be, and they had to make the most of it. They understood that, and I thought the guys that a lot of times did it. Now, sometimes it was just pure opportunity for some of them. They
yeah,
just didn't get the opportunity. But other guys, I remember just my conversations with them. Like, I'm not getting the opportunities. I'm like, you're not gonna. Like,
yeah,
Yeah,
you have you've got to make the 2 or the 3 that you get like
the
stand out.
best. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was but I it's really interesting to hear you articulate that and say that because it's very, very important. And even by the way, at that point, you still don't even know. Even if you do great with your few opportunities, you still don't know if you're gonna get the next one or someone's gonna notice the way that they should notice. That's still a wild card. Um, but I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about that because that mentality and how that switch went when your hand got broke, you probably thought to yourself, "Well, my back is against the wall.
yeah.
Like they may not keep me anyway because I got this broken hand and like I'm trying to make it with this, and I might as well just let it fly, right?" And all of a sudden, what it clicks, right? Starts to click a little bit.
It started to click, and I was in that exactly like that same sort of mentality as you were saying. Like my back was against the wall. I was like, well, if this is going to be my last game playing football, or my last couple weeks playing football, like I'm going to have fun with it. And I was kind of just putting the pain of my hand on the shelf and not worrying about that as much. And I was just trying to focus on the game, what my job was each play, and just trying to do the best I could. And I was very fortunate. Some plays ended up working out, and they liked me, so I was hanging around. And that's it. It's just survival at that point. And then the biggest jump from year one to year two was getting out of that survival type mindset and really sort of looking at myself as like not a fan of the NFL, but as like a professional. And I think that was one thing that I wish I knew earlier is I was confident in my abilities, but I wasn't confident enough to the point where I was like, well, not only am I just, undrafted guy, but I could be a player here in this league and I can play and I can hang. And not only can I hang, I can actually do well. So that was the biggest jump for me year 1 to year 2, and I've kind of settled in that mindset. So now I'm trying to take, you know, that sort of mentality of like, no, I can hang, and how can I like improve even more to be like a consistent starter for whatever team I'm playing on.
Great point. And I think that that's such a critical projection, I guess, of how you're going to continue to move up, because that is the next step. Now you're there.
Yeah,
Now
Yep.
you're a guy that they rely on, and now it's like, okay, how do you keep getting your game to the next level? What are the things because once you get in, right, and maybe talk about this a little bit. The truth is the difference between you and the guy who is maybe playing a little bit more than you are is so small in their mind, not necessarily what in your mind, but I'm saying the coach's mind. Like it really isn't. It's like a minuscule difference in their mind, and
yeah,
that's why you're still on the roster. And the hardest thing for the player is to realize that you're at that level, and it's not like, even though you might be, you went to Holy Cross and you might be standing next to a guy from Georgia, you're
yeah,
at that same level, right? And you may have attributes that may be different than his attributes, right? And
Right.
that can take you to different levels. Like, the fact that you played quarterback in high school, the fact that if you probably studied defensive playbook and really and learned everything inside and out. And, you might know some nuances that they may not know, right? You
mm,
may pick up on some things that they may not pick up on, which is independent of athleticism. And that's the thing. Once you learn the techniques and the things you need to have to be able to be a stable player in the NFL, now it's like, when we get those extra edges, those things that the other guy's not maybe willing to do, or my own personal skill sets that might be different that can
yeah,
help me. Talk
yeah.
about, kind of some of those things that you start to identify and that you think may be able to help you get better and improve.
Well, I think the biggest thing is experience. And when you're from a coaching perspective and you're breaking down two guys and you think both could play, but one is just a little bit better at one point, I think it's because that one player that's better is just more experienced and he's like learned a little bit more and he's got like the little nuances of each technique and he's got the game reps. So it's hard to make that step from being the next guy up to the guy that's playing now, because ultimately a coach is going to trust the guy that's played in 18 games versus somebody who's only played in 3.
Right.
And um where you can beat that more experienced player out is just by sitting back and just trying to get as many game reps as possible just by watching film. So I realized that very quickly, and I'm trying to ask all these vets, questions of how I can improve my game. What do they think on when they get this look and this look? So while the whole time you're not getting game reps or something, you're stacking like little tools that can help you when you eventually do get that opportunity to stand out on tape. And with special teams, especially, Grant Stewart is one of our best players on our team. He's got, long
Yep.
red hair. He stands out on every single game you watch of the Colts, but um, he is so smart when it comes to special teams, and he's been a teamer for a lot of years in the league. And just talking with him has improved my game so much. Um, and you're right, like everybody, when you get to this level, it doesn't matter where you're from. Like everybody can pretty much do the same things at a high level physically. It's just about how can you elevate your game and make yourself better than the other guy mentally, and that's what shows up.
And there's a level of, so when you probably watch film in college, you watched it from your perspective and what you had to do, you know what I mean? And now when you're at the NFL, you have to obviously know your perspective, but you also have to know what the other pieces are doing. You're watching it, you're almost like you're like what the college coaches are like when you're on the field, because you have to see it the way the coach sees it when you're out there, so you can react so much quicker. Because if you react like you would as a college player, where you're relying off of, like, your one or two reads and being able to be more athletic or more physical or whatever it is, you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL because the guy across from you on the other side
Yeah.
is watching that's especially a vet. You might have a lineman that's a veteran, been playing for 10 years at that position, and they know where you are going as soon as the ball snapped. They know where you're going from a blocking standpoint. Whereas college guys, even at high levels, they're following the path their coaches taught them to take.
Yeah.
At the NFL, they know the path that the linebackers are going to take on this particular play because they know how you would combat what they're doing. And that's the thing that makes the difference on the film part of it. To talk about how you've helped yourself get that kind of perspective in the game.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. And that honestly, it just comes from watching film. Like the amount of film I've watched since I've been in the league is probably doubled any sort of film that I watched in college. And that's not to say that I didn't watch film in college. I watched a ton of film in college.
Of course.
But
you watched a ton of film in high school, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the difference too, I think. And, just to preface before you even answer the question, it's like, a lot of the kids and guys that want to get scholarships and do all of these types of things, right? Like, I don't think they understand the amount of work that goes into this whole process. And you were a guy that we would have considered and tabbed a film junkie in high school from a very young age. You already had those traits in you. And then to see you have to dial it up in college, and now even more so at the level you're at, right? Like, really kind of puts things into perspective.
Yeah. And I think as a young player, like in high school, first you got to love the game and you got to be, you know, very encouraged and very inspired to like learn as much as you can to improve your own game, because any player can go out there in high school and put up a good huddle tape and have a ton of touchdowns and splash plays and something, but where they're really going to stand out as soon that'll get their foot in the door in college. But where they want to what's going to make them stand out in college is if they can really start to learn the game and not just like any offensive position or defensive position, but like special teams. Like I've played, I don't even know how many different positions in my career just because of like how much I want to learn. And whether that's like me playing deep corner or safety, like I was able to move around in my defense in college because I understood what was going on for each defensive call. But I'll give you guys an example. Like in college, probably like a baseline of where you want to be is from like a linebacker at least is, um, you know, you're looking at a offensive formation for the play, and you're like, oh, okay, they could run power here, and you're seeing, the tackle box, offensive line, quarterback, running back, wherever they're aligned and everything. And oh, the guard's a little bit lighter off his hand, like he's leaning back a little bit, he's probably pulling. So you get stuff like that, you pick up on stuff like that in the league. You have to see the full picture. So like, okay, you can see all those things that you just saw in college, but you got to take a look at the X receiver over here, and if he's too wide, he's probably too far to crack down on the safeties. So it's probably more like a play action pass if you see that guard pulling. So like it's little things like that where like in the league, if you see a guard pull but the X is wide and you step up, you've already lost because now you're stepping up on play action. Where like if the X was close to the line, he's probably going to be able to crack the safety. So if you see that guard pull, then you can really shoot it. And that's how really good linebackers make plays in the backfield like that, because they understand stuff like that before the ball's even snapped. So it was kind of like, that's just little stuff. Like that's an example of like stuff I picked up on since I've been in the league. But again, that comes from film study and just being like a student of the game and trying to learn as much as possible.
And that confidence to jump it, right? To know that you're going to be right because you watch so much film. That
not even the physical part of it, right, Dave? Like that's not even adding in the physical part of the game itself to be able to compete and do that thing at that level.
Yeah.
That's just the mental pre-snap beforehand, knowing where you're going to be.
Like my favorite thing of like when I was watching the 2 games yesterday, right? And what I thought was when the Eagles obviously were doing the tush push on the goal line, and when the announcers kept saying, "Oh, yeah, I can't remember the guy who was doing it, but he was going over the top over and over again."
Over and
Right?
over.
Remember that? And I'm like, that's brilliant because you know what? If for some reason Jalen Hurts for one split second thinks about that, maybe he doesn't get underneath. Now, 99 out of 100 times, because obviously he's a great player, it's not going to phase him. But you're
Yeah.
hoping that maybe this is the 1 out of 100 that you phase him, and he's a little slow to get in the tush push, and you get him, or the guys underneath him get it, because it's almost as much as it's everyone's like, oh, he's trying to make a play. He is. He's also trying to distract, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to make somebody make a mistake that they wouldn't. Maybe they jump off sides. Maybe the next time. And obviously, the NFL is the highest level, so it's very hard to get guys to make that mistake. But you're hoping for that 1 out of 100 time, which does happen, right? And so that's the kind of the mental aspect of the game. They're like, oh, he keeps doing. Well, to me, it was like he has nothing to lose. They're scoring. I mean, they're on the freaking 3-foot line. With that play, it's almost it's so hard to stop. And even though they stopped at one time, but it was like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. And it's those kind of nuances and knowing and that's just like a very extreme example, but
Yeah.
it's understanding what can happen in the game and why you would do it. And to the person watching, casually watching, they don't really understand like why this guy keeps jumping over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? They don't like.
Announcers won't get it either.
They won't. They don't get it. They don't really understand why is he doing this? He's just getting them closer. He knows they're getting in unless somehow he gets them to jump off sides. Jalen Hurts hesitates. Something like that happens. And that's what NFL players know, right? That guy, the casual fan, or even, you're right, even the announcer, the play-by-play guy, who probably played in the NFL at one point. It's either Romo
that game. It was Tom Brady yesterday. Like,
yeah. They don't understand that exact situation as to why they would do it, and that's, as a defensive player, you understand what you're trying to kind of get done there. And I think that's what makes the game so great. Like, there's so many of those, especially with it's so cool that you're at the highest level. Like all those nuances that like would be like this incredible luxury in college for your player to do. All the players have that ability to have that, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And I've been very blessed to have great coaches in my career all throughout college and in the league that have taught me so much and that have been, eager to teach me different things to improve my game. So I think where I'm at right now mentally in terms of how I look at the game is just a culmination of those coaches that I've had and trying to build off of what they've taught me. So we just got a new DC and linebacker coach in here in Indy this year. So I'm very sure that they'll be, building off of the same places from where I left off with my last coach and just trying to keep stacking and learning more and getting better mentally with every single year.
No doubt about it. It's very, very cool stuff. It's a unique thing that you're in. It's a very small club, and you're in that club, and
yeah.
people don't realize how hard it is to get on the 53-man roster, to get that opportunity, to be able to have an opportunity to get in the field. Special teams wise, obviously that's where most guys like yourself, obviously your bread is butter to start with, right from there. What is it about special teams that gives guys like yourself an opportunity to really kind of stick?
Um, I think when you think of the NFL and football, you obviously think of like big names like Pat Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, Saquon, Fred Warner, people who play offense and defense. Special teams is kind of lost sometimes when you're just watching because you just think like, oh, it's the kickoff. Who's going to get tackled at the 20? but people don't really realize the strategy that goes into it, and also just the effort required to make those like sometimes uh, boring plays happen. Like there's so much that goes into each punt and punt return, kickoff and kick return. So you got to first want to be out there and like really love the
Yeah.
game. And that's not to say that people who don't play special teams don't love the game and don't want to be out there, because a lot of them do. But we might need those guys on offense or defense more than we need them on special teams. So in order to get out there, like you first got to be able to show that you will have effort no matter what the situation is. Like you could be running down on kickoff and the score is 49-0, but you still better be like, running your ass off trying to make the tackle. So it's about showing your coaches that sort of effort that doesn't waver no matter the situation or what unit you're about to run out there on, and like your love for the game, because it doesn't matter for me like what position or what unit I'm on. I'm just gonna give my best no matter what and try to make an impact on the game.
Yeah, the ability on special teams to make plays. First of all, you're making plays in tremendous amount of space against a guy who his specialty is making people miss in space. So people don't realize how hard that is, because you're running down full speed and you've
Yeah.
got to be able to make the play with a guy who the only reason he's on the team is because he can make guys miss in tight spaces. So and in open space. So it's an incredible thing to be able to run
And in
down a
the league,
special.
it looks so routine, right? Like Dave, like those plays, they look so. Everybody looks very similar in the league when it comes to special teams, right? Everybody aligns in the same punt formation. Everybody, all looks the same with all of that, and it just looks like guys are just going out there, and like it's so routine that the average fan, like you said, Liam, has no concept of everything that goes into it, unless it's, oh, we just dialed up a fake punt. I mean, shit, you saw that yesterday, right? Like, here comes a fake punt, or, oh my, like a blocked extra point, or those little things that like never only, people only pay attention when it's a big play or something goes awry. They don't understand how much goes into every one of those quote unquote routine plays within a special teams unit. And, one of the things for you, and it's definitely, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, one of the reasons you've been able to stick around for as long as you have is because you have the ability to play and do multiple things within the special teams game, itself. And that just comes from making you do it in high school when you it's like, hey, he's the quarterback, but he's also got to play gunner on punt as a young buck sophomore, or college where your first 2 years to kind of really solidify yourself as a defensive player was to run around on special teams.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And you got to be able to go out there and give 110% effort no matter what it is, and be willing to do some of the dirty work, game in and game out. In practice and training camp, when it's hot out, you got to run down on kickoff. You just got to do it. Sometimes you just got to grit your teeth and try to make a play. And I think one of the cool things about being a special teamer in the league is that it'll take a little bit for guys to sort of kind of click with them on how to be a really good teamer. But then once you see those guys start to get like a year or two under their belt in terms of being a teamer, then you'll see them get an opportunity on defense or offense or whatever they're on. Like look at Zach Bond for the Eagles. He was a teamer with the Saints, and now he's all pro DPOY candidate linebacker for the Eagles. But I guarantee you, the way he's like punching the ball out, like he learned that long ago when he was like a teamer, and he's still on punt right now. And you don't see that a lot from like a starting middle linebacker in the league right now. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of just doing your due diligence, giving back to the game, if you want to call it, doing the dirty work, But eventually, when you get to that spot of like really dominating special teams, you'll get your opportunity in one way or another.
No doubt about it. It's interesting that you talked about like punching the ball, and obviously that's how you originally broke your hand and everything. It's funny because so many people are always like, "Oh, we should teach our kids to punch the ball." They don't realize how skilled punching the ball out the guys in the NFL are able to do it. Like being able to run and tackle somebody at the same time that you're able to punch the ball out and land in the right spot on the ball to be able to punch the guy out and by the way, have a hand that's strong enough. Like you teach the average high school kid to punch the ball out, like really punch the ball, like the way that you guys punch the ball out. Like they're not able to do it. You know what I mean? Like they could reach in and pull out. They could slap it out. They could, maybe your best player on the team has a chance to do it. But the average guy, it's very because they're so skilled. Because most kids, when you teach them, oh, punch the ball out, they forget the tackle, right? They forget the other part that they have to take care of as they're trying to get the ball out. And when you watch NFL players, they're able to have it so well timed, so we'll understand where they are on the field in this like quick split second, hundredth of a hundred second, and be able to punch it out that time. And they're like, "Oh, what a great! I love it." And I was like, "What a great play!" It's like he knows when to punch it out. And I'm like, "Yeah, like that skill is like a skill that's been worked on, and these guys can do things that you just can't teach your."
Yeah.
You can teach your average kid it, but it's gonna be very hard for them to do that. Talk about how you kind of continue to work on your athletic skills to be able to do these kind of, I would call it like multitasking. Like how a person at work is on the phone and they're doing on the computer, like being able to do those multitask type things as a player, being able to tackle and rip the ball at the same time. Talk about how you kind of work on those skill sets.
Yeah, we would work on punching the ball out every single day in practice. So, obviously you're not going to be the best at doing it your first time around. But when you get to week 14 and you're going through the same drill that you guys do 3 times a week, like you start to pick up on like how it should look and what you should do, and also just by watching tape. Um, so it's kind of just like the repetition kind of thing. Also, I think a skill like that between like running and being able to have your eyes on the ball, and it's not necessarily punching as hard as you can at it, but more just punching the right spot. And there are opportunities when you wouldn't even be able to punch the ball. Like if somebody's holding a football how they should, running the ball high and tight and you're squared up with them, you probably shouldn't punch the ball. But, if you're running at an angle coming from the side and you see that their arm is in the ball is in their inside arm rather than their outside arm, then you have an opportunity. So it's about understanding like when and when not to punch the ball. I learned that lesson very early on with my hand. But now I understand it. So it's about having a good feel for the game. Also, just the repetition of getting, reps in, drill in, week out, and watching other guys do it successfully, and then you can pick up on it.
Yeah, it seems to be too as much as it is punching to the ball. It's leveraging their speed, moving in one direction, and your hand coming the other direction,
Yeah,
um, and being able to time that up and getting in the right spot, like you talked about, at the right time, because the fist has a certain amount of power when it hits the sweet spot of the ball, right? And that's a key element of it because their speed's going this way or on the side, and you're coming in one direction. So you're leveraging that speed that they already have to be able to get the ball going in the other direction when you get your hand on it, which
yeah,
is such a I think it's such a amazing thing when I see guys get that ball out like that, and you're like, wow, it's like that was the one split second opportunity that ball was actually exposed, and and it's amazing to me how you guys do this too. It's as a coach, you guys coached for a long time, just like Derek, and I always find it so amazing on how the timing is that as it just becomes exposed, boom, you get it right out. And that's the same thing with everything, like the timing of being able, the repetitions to be able to, break up a pass, to be able to get to the quarterback, to know when you could slide by that lineman to get by him, to know when you can't do that at this point, and you gotta maintain your leverage briefly until you can get your opportunity to get to the ball.
Yeah.
Talk about how you rep those things and how you get it to sink in. What I mean. So where you get like those kind of aha moments, you're like, I get this now.
Yeah. I think it starts with having a good feel for the game. First off, I think as a defensive player, you got to understand, what moves against an offensive lineman is going to help you get to the ball the quickest. And I'll give you an example just because the way I'm thinking about it. If I am like to the front side of like a zone sweep play, and I'm getting an offensive lineman that's climbing on me, um, I gotta understand if like the ball is out leveraged me already, and I don't even need to mess with this offensive lineman. I can just outrun him because I know I'm faster. Or if he's got a good jump on me, and I got a good feel if I can go up and underneath him and then stack him and then try to get to the ball. Um, but I learned stuff like that by trying to up and underneath unsuccessfully, I'll say, is where I've like really picked up on when I can and when I cannot do it. So it's just like trial and error sort of things that help you get a better feel of the game, and obviously the reps to do it, and also film study, like we've been harping on a lot throughout this talk. But um, just experience of the game and like seeing what works for other people and what doesn't work, and then knowing what you are capable of physically and what you aren't capable of, because you might be able to see an offensive lineman and be like, oh, he's not as good as athlete of me, I'm just going to outrun him, and that'll work for probably 9 times out of 10 until you meet that one freakish athletic offensive lineman that can really run with you, so
Right.
um, it's just understanding the game and the reps that come with getting a better feel for what works and what doesn't.
The the interesting thing about the NFL too is when you play against certain players, and you probably know this, like when you watch Patrick Mahomes, and you're like, how does he just get it done over and over again? And he does get help from the referees. I
Oh
always believe that.
shit! Here we go, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
fuck.
I believe that. I believe that last night the Bills got screwed, but that's not here or there. But I always felt like this though. Even if the Bills go down and score right on that drive, you just have this feeling that like Patrick Mahomes is going to lead them right back down and like score. And it when you prepare for some of these guys that you play against that are like just they make these things happen that you even when you're on the field, you're just like, son of a gun, how the hell do you make that happen? Um, what is the mindset of a defense when you're playing against? So, and obviously, everybody's offense is very good. It's just a matter of how good they are. But what is the mindset going into it when you get a lot of these players you're playing against that just make some of these things crazy things happen?
Well, it's funny because as defensive players, like we are fans of offensive players too. And we'll be watching film, preparing for an opponent, and we'll see a play where he completely juked somebody out, made him fall, and we'll be like looking at each other like, did you see that? Like so we just know and understand that they get paid as well, and they're
Right.
great plays throughout the game, but it's about how you respond to those great plays, and you're like, oh, okay, they got that one, but not anymore, type of thing. So it's about understanding like where their weaknesses are, sticking to the game plan, and try to minimize, the big plays that they are guaranteed to get in a given game.
Correct. I think that's a huge part too, right? Like limit people don't understand what goes into defense. It's like, look, sure tackling, limit big plays, cause turnovers, right? Like as many opportunities you can is literally what it is. Because like you said, even a guy in the league, and you even mentioned it earlier, right? Where you're now looking at it like, look, I can not only stack up and play here, but I can do better than some others, right? That there's a mutual respect among the league itself that, hey, man, like you understand that this guy is going to catch a ball on this corner, or this guy is going to juke somebody and make freaking plays. We just have to limit them, and we need to have more than them. And that's really kind of what it comes down to. Whereas, and I think at the younger levels, a lot of coaches look at it like that, in terms of they look at it from a different perspective in terms that like, hey, this play is like, oh, I can't believe he caught a ball. It's like, that's going to happen. Oh, I can't believe we gave this up. That's going to happen. Just limit those things and learn from it. And then kind of now you can progress within the game itself. That's really difficult at the younger level to get that. Whereas, you know, at the tops of the tops where you are, that's basically understood going into the game. They're going to get some, you know?
No doubt. And I think at the high school level, it's a little bit easier to limit what big plays a team might have because you're not guaranteed that each guy is going to be like on the same level physically. And, you know, even that whatever coach you're going against is going to be on the same level, like schematically. So it might be easier. Like high school, you'll probably get a good team and they might have like one or two guys. College, you might get a team and they might have like, you know, five or six. Like in the league, like everybody's great, you know? So it's about like
Yeah.
guy who's a dude and like mixing it up because you know that the offense is going to try to get that guy the ball as much as possible.
That's a great point. It's it's everybody's great. Yeah, there is no slouchers. There's no bad players at the NFL. It's just
Hell no.
yeah. I call it like it's elite plus versus elite plus plus maybe. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, you know, everybody uses the word like elite. Like you probably remember when you're in high school. Oh, this AAU team, so and so elite, right? Like NFL is like elite plus plus or elite plus plus plus. That's what the players are. And that's what it kind of is. What's your off season like right now? What are you kind of what you said you're back, you know, you're back in the, what are some of the things that you're going to start to work on in the off season?
Yeah, I just got back to Indy. A lot of guys will take some time off as soon as the season ends because it's a very long year. So I was back home. My parents are in North Carolina right now, so I was, you know, taking some time off, staying with them. Um, right now in the off season, I'm kind of just focusing on getting stronger, obviously stronger and faster. That's going to be, you know, the main things underlying my off season plans for every single level, and they have been for the longest time. But now at this point in my career, I'm trying to focus on like stuff like ankle mobility, hip mobility, running form. I want to try to get too for like what we were talking about with like punch of the ball out and hand quickness and hand speed, and try to pick up like little stuff like that that can eventually improve my game. Um, and like a lot of times you'll see guys like their off season in the league is not going to be the same off season that they had in college. Like college, it's like lift, 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 lift. Like guys are at a point right now with their bodies, they're just trying to maintain the strength that they have rather than like really build. So obviously, I'm still trying to build. Like I'm not saying I'm strong enough
Right.
to, you know, last my whole career with where I'm at. But the mentality switches from like that grind sort of attitude to sort of like how can I get my body perfect for where it needs to be come training camp and OTAs. I'm not necessarily looking at this off season as like, oh, I need to get to this weight so I can play. Like, no,
Right.
I already know where my weight's going to be
No,
good.
it's such a different perspective.
Yeah, it's about like how can I be efficient with what I'm doing in the weight room to sort of give me like, you know, little bits of an edge against my opponent, whether that be like how flexible my ankles are or shoulder mobility. Oh, like I couldn't really move as much as I wanted to with my hips. I'm going to be doing a lot of yoga and Pilates now instead of just,
Look at
deadlifting.
this guy.
Well, yeah, because it goes from strength foundation, right, to a body foundation that you want to have at the end of it. You need a body foundation at the NFL, meaning there are things as you're growing as an athlete from the time you're young, from your little kid to when you become a teenager to when you become a college, you're overall still growing and you're trying to develop this strength foundation, which when you become a man, okay, there's a certain strength foundation now that you've had from all that time. It doesn't, like you said, you're continuing to lift, but now you're trying to get the structural components of your body to be right, because that way you can endure a very long season, and those structural foundations stay stable and stay
Yeah.
strong, and allows you to sprint faster in the game. It allows you to be able to leverage your strength, because some of these things that you would have never thought of have happened to you from an injury standpoint, little things with your ankle that could happen, or little things with your hips or your shoulders. Those things are really big issues potentially at the NFL. So you want to make sure all the foundational elements. I remember a guy I played ball with in college at UConn. He played 12 years or 11 years in arena, and most of his offseason as a quarterback was really spent around, like, he didn't lift in the same way. It was a lot of band work, like building the foundations for his arm. So when he would get hit and throw, it wasn't, oh my goodness, he's out. You know what I mean? There was stability in the tendons. There was stability in the foundations of his body, that things that you never worried about in college don't creep up and become an issue when you're in the NFL, because when you're young, you're just like, am I strong enough? Am I strong enough? Am I strong? Am I fast enough? Like, that's all you're worried about as you're moving up the ladder. You're like, talk about it.
Young as well. Like that's all you should really be focused on. But like you get to the league, you'll meet so many guys that are just, you're like, oh, I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I can't drink this. I can't drink that. Like guys are very, very, very particular with their diet. And you ask yourself, like, how has that guy played in the league for 10 years?
Yeah.
Like, go hang out with him for a week. You'll see how he's been around for that long. Like that's his lifestyle. And
Yep.
stray from it at all. Like he's very consistent, and with how he handles himself, like how he handles his business off the field, his body physically, and that's how you stay around for as long as people do.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a foundational thing. Look, the receiver from the Bills, Mac Hollins, right? Like I mean, you're taking it from really the extreme level, but he lives exactly how he wants his body to be
Oh, that's
the
real.
whole entire day, 24 hours a day, other than when he goes with his cleats on. That's the only time he separates from it.
The only time, it's the only time he has shoes, right? I mean, think about it. Like you said, Leo, which is great, right? Like you hang out with a guy for a week, you'll know everything about him. Like his phone goes off every 2 hours to eat, and then he has that meal programmed out, right? Or hey, I have to be drinking this. Like everything is so calculated. And again, I'll bring it full circle. These kids that I want a scholarship, I want this, I want to play at this level. Guys, do you understand what it really goes into it? And how much, like you said, Liam, and you've said it multiple times, you have to love so much more than just scoring touchdowns, so much more than just putting a helmet on, because all of the work comes, right now when, look, the NFL is still going on and you're already back in Indy working at your off season, right? Like that's the type and level of commitment and love. Oh, that's a lot of work. It's not work for you because this is what you love to do. This is just all part of the process. and I don't think it's awesome to hear you speak about it like that, because it's really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of these guys that they really don't understand what it takes to even sniff the level that you're at.
Yeah, and also I kind of want to take a step back and also just say, like, this stuff I'm doing is really fun.
Yeah.
Not just work. Like, I love playing football. I love hanging out in the weight room and everything like that. So that's not to say like the hours that I spent in the weight room I hated and it was like a grind to get through. Like, I had some of my best friends that I'll ever have for life at college, and we turned whatever hell lift we were going through into like the time of our lives. Like, that's just like the kind of mentality that we adopted at Holy Cross, and it's really like helped me a lot. But like, that's the same thing with, you know, all the guys on my team right now with the Colts. Like, everybody loves what they do, and football is very fun when you're doing it at a high level successfully. So it's about trying to get to that level. And, it's the same thing like in high school with Coach D. Like, when we were winning in Mount Olive, like, it was a lot of fun. But like, how do you get to that level? It's just by like taking it a day at a time in the off season and understanding what needs to happen, and the whole team being on the same page with when it's time to work and when it's time to like goof off and have some fun. And you'll have a lot of success if you really understand what needs to happen.
It's a continuous
Like-minded people.
It's a continuous enthusiasm for the sport, right? You love the sport, but it's that continued enthusiasm that doesn't break. I also think it must be, I'm sure you know quite a few of these guys. There are some guys that are probably on your team that may not do everything properly, but they were just such beyond freaks that you're like, this dude is like, what earth is he from? What planet is he from? He's so freakish that he can get away with doing some of these things.
Very true. Sometimes you'll just see a guy and you're like, he eats like that, and he moves like that, and he looks like that. Like, yeah, they're out there like that, and you are not one of them. So stop looking.
But like you said, respect across the board. It's like, dude, if you can do it that way and still be a Pro Bowler and still help us win, like, kudos, dude, we're good. You know what I mean? Like, all of those little things, it's just crazy, dude. And look, you also, like you said, like, you were coached at a high level, and we're fortunate enough to have coaches that kind of got it and really kind of like, dove into it and cared about it at all your levels, right? Like, I also think one of the things that I always give you flowers about was you had opportunities to play at a lot of schools. You picked the right school for you, and you knew your process. And that was really difficult, especially for you being a 3-sport athlete where you only got 4 weeks to really grind in that weight room and get your body right for football, because you were playing basketball, you were playing baseball, you were doing all of these things, yet you made time and set it aside to kind of continue to lift through each one of those seasons. And then when you got to college, I remember having that conversation, like, Liam, I know you're going in there as a safety, but it's going to be probably 3 days before they change your number and you're down in the box, dude. Like, this is what's going to happen. And then seeing you come back Thanksgiving break that first time, plus 15 solid pounds of muscle, because, hey, you're lifting this, you're eating this, like, just a totally different dude. Not mentally, right? Like, because you were still, this is awesome, I love every bit of it, but physically doing those things that it took, and you were surrounded by like-minded guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, Corey Stefanik, who I was fortunate enough to coach in Bosco as well, who's been on this show, right? Like, I'm watching him now progress in his post-playing career as a coach. Like, he just got another defensive coordinator job, as a D3 coach up in the Northeast. Like, everybody's like-minded. And I think when you're surrounded by that in the league, it only pushes you to continue to grow and continue to get better, even more so than what you have to have for yourself. Those other guys around you make you better. And that's just kind of, the whole process to everything. When you get all those like-minded people together with one common goal, it's over, dude. Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah, that's really cool. You bring up Corey. Corey was like one of my favorite teammates at Holy Cross, and he was um, I can't remember if he was a fifth year senior or a regular
Yeah,
senior.
fifth year. Yep, he did a fifth year.
Yeah, he was a fifth year senior when I was a freshman, and he was playing our overhang like strong safety outside linebacker position, and I had never played that. So like one of the guys that I really look up to in terms of how he like was his stance and his work ethic and everything. And he also played every single special teams, and he would rush off the edge too. So like he was a very uh, early template of like how I wanted to be as a player. So it's really cool to hear you bring him up again.
Yeah. Well, I always compared you two. I always thought you guys were very like-minded. And like I said, he was, it's why he's a good coach, right? It's why he's progressing along in his coaching career is because, he was willing to do those things. And then you were always willing to do those things. You were the quarterback, but to be honest, your best freaking game in the state finals was as a safety. Like you made more plays on that side of the ball than you did being the quarterback against a pretty freaking good team who's still winning freaking games. They're unbelievable. But it was those types of things that now you see so many guys, especially at the quarterback position. Dave and I have this conversation all the time. Well, my kid's a quarterback, and they're only a quarterback, and they only want to do this, and they only want to do that. And that's the only sport they play, but they train year round. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, it's got to be other things. And, Dave's done a great job with his kid who's 9 and plays every sport under the sun, and every season is doing something, yet still works out, still does this, that's just such a pivotal part. I'm sure your teammates in the league, who's the best hooper, right? Oh, I got let's go, and you guys go out and you do that. Those types of things. Do you see a lot of that with your teammates? All those guys were pretty good at other sports?
A ton. Like DeForest Buckner, I don't think there's one sport that guy is not good at. Like guy, like a mini indoor, and he'll just go there and like 5 in a row, like it's nothing. Go to walkthrough. Like we have a ton of guys like that who are really good like basketball players. We'll go watch basketball player highlights and judge them. Who was the best? Who had the best?
That's
dunk.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing too many baseball players though. I will say, like, I think I might have the baseball thing on the team, but yeah, everybody played different sports growing up. Track was a big one, so guys have done it all, and they're just very good, well-rounded athletes because of it.
Yeah. And look, it's really something that we, even the college guys, one of the first things that those recruiters now come in when they're looking for a guy, it's like, well, what other sports does he do? Right? Like, does he run track? Does he wrestle? Does he play hoops? You know what I mean? So to hear you talk about your teammates in the league, all of them played something or did something else, right? It's just really good to get that reference for people that are like, well, my kid's going to concentrate on this. It's like, well, he's 9, dude. Like, let him go play some other sports. Let him do some other things.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy, dude. I'm in the world now. My kid plays a million sports, but it's like what I see is just I'm like I was shocked because I coached high school for so many years, and obviously played at UConn, and I obviously hadn't been in youth until my kids started coming through, and I was like, oh my god! Every day I'm shocked. There's no other way to put it. I'm shocked at the world. I'm like, I might have to get back to coaching high school just so I could have a breath of fresh air or something that I understand a lot more. So
Yeah.
but it all works out because just like you, he loves sports. He just loves to play, and that's the he like you break it down. He just wants to play the sports and be with his friends. And I mean, that's really just what it is. It doesn't matter what the level is, high, low, or in between. He just wants to play, and he's lucky he's a good athlete, but it's that's the fundamental, like the love for the game. That's the whole thing that you always want like your kids to have is like the continued love for the sport. And then eventually when they get older, right, they're going to want to put everything into it because they love it first, right? If you didn't love football, if you didn't love the sports you played, you wouldn't have wanted to continue to work hard to do it. And I think that's that's the most important thing. And for you, obviously, it's taking you all the way to the NFL, and that's an important thing. Like there's we try to tell kids in high school, there's a difference between liking it and loving it.
Oh,
There's
we
a big
try.
difference.
We
Like
try.
liking it, I guess you can get a varsity letter liking it. You get a varsity letter, and you can be on the team, and you could might be on a good team. You might be on a team that's really good, and you could do really well because you're around. If you love it, though, you'll try to get the most out of yourself, and that's the most important thing. And that's what you're doing, and I think that's what I find so fantastic is that you're getting the most out of yourself. And it's probably when you were in high school, because you were the other kids looked to you like you were the freak. You know what I'm saying? Like you were the freak athlete to them in high school, your friends and stuff. And it's great because when you're in the NFL, you're like, wow, this is a world of freak athletes, and I'm one of the guys trying to make sure that I'm at that level as well. So it's
and
great.
not even that, Dave, too. Like, not even just like the freak, like athlete guy, right? Like, and look, I'm going to continue to give him his flowers because he'll always be my guy, right? But Liam was like that in everything, not just athletics, dude. Like he crushed the classroom stuff, right? Like like all this stuff, classroom, school, like quote unquote all-American boy, right? And sometimes like he got his balls busted because like no, he wasn't gonna go to the party, he wasn't gonna do that stuff because dude, like that's not what I want to do. Like I have more fun going working out, training, doing whatever than like, all right, I don't need to be going and doing that stuff. And I'm not to say that he was, anything different because he was still the cool kid and all the girls wanted to like, can I date Liam Anderson? But he just made those big boy decisions and because he wanted something bigger than what, being cool was all about. Sometimes like it's okay to be boring. It's okay to do those things, and I understand it's hard for high school kids to do that, especially even more so now with social media where everything is out there right away and it's all about clicks and who's cool and who's this and who's that. That's always going to be a part of it. So to be mature and understand that self-awareness of like how I'm going to progress at this, you know what I mean, like is really different. And that's kind of the track that gets you where he's at. And other way you might be able to get there, but your best shot is to do it that way, right? And sometimes you have to make those decisions where you might not be the coolest cat in the room, according to your quote unquote friends, but I only see one of them playing in the NFL.
Yeah. No, definitely sacrifices you got to make for the lifestyle you want, no doubt. You guys really know how to keep me humble.
Look, I just want you to keep working, dude, so that you can get vested and I can be your driver someday. Like I'm good for that.
No doubt about it. It's been great having you on. It really is. It's pretty amazing that you were the first one we did with the Prospect Podcast. Now that we're at 139, and hopefully continue. Hopefully we'll be able to check back with you again, and it'll continue to be that progression. And but it's really exciting, and it's for me it's great meeting you and getting to talk with you. Obviously, Derek knows you really, really well. But I can't thank you enough for coming on.
No, thanks for having me. I love being here.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you, kid. Keep working, huh?
Yes, sir. Absolutely, I will.
All right. Have a great day.
Stay warm out there, baby.
You know it's getting cold.
Indeed. Yeah, a little different.
Oh, that was great. Great. I didn't realize that. Wow, 139 episodes. That's just phenomenal. He's doing great things, man. And it's gonna be cool to continue to see that. It's seeing it from the beginning to where it's at now, and hopefully, maybe we check in with him again next year around this time, and we'll see the next step. And
yeah, I mean, look, it's just kind of one of those things too. You know what I mean? Like he really just went into this whole thing like. Like his plan wasn't to play in the NFL. Like if it had happened, it happened. Like I got a degree from Holy Cross. You know what I'm saying? Like I got another year at Holy Cross because of COVID. Like, so I'm even more so ahead of the game. coach, I have an internship this summer that, whatever. And then, okay, the NFL here, okay, I'm going to give it my all. And if it's something that goes, like, cool, let's go with it. You know what I mean? And he's kind of just taking it, run with everything that's come from it. I mean, look, we both played. We know what injuries are like, especially to have that, like an injury like that in your first couple weeks of being in the NFL. Like that for most guys would have been like, look, that's it. Like I ain't going to be able to get anything from here. So for him to kind of even get like, just another speed bump that he kind of, continued to go. And you hear him speak about like understanding like his role and kind of like embracing every bit of it, no matter what was asked of him, because look, a lot of guys are not willing to do those things or to be that thing or to do what's asked. Hey, I've never done that. Right. Or just make up an excuse for why they're not good at something. And look, he's a different person, but a great example for guys that just kind of really need to understand what goes into this. If you really want to be at that level, and that it's literally, how many times did he reference loving the game?
Yeah.
Like how many of our kids, how many of these guys that could you ask and be like, well, do you love the game itself or do you just love what comes with it? Right. Like that's huge.
There's no doubt about it,
and especially now with all the NIL and the actual money being tagged to it, right?
It makes it a lot harder. Yeah. It makes it a lot harder to decipher through all that stuff. So, but yeah, that's awesome. Oh, awesome. Great interview. Let's jump off and then, when are we back again?
Wednesday.
We'll be back. We'll see you guys then.